A Russian naval ship stationed in occupied Crimea was destroyed by Ukrainian forces. Countries across Europe tighten their security levels as intelligence notifies of potential terrorist attacks. Severe floods hit Europe, with some having to evacuate their houses on Christmas Day.
Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny says he is, quote, doing well after his transfer to a remote Arctic prison unit.
A Russian naval ship stationed occupied Crimea was damaged in an airstrike by Ukrainian forces, Russia's defense ministry confirmed Tuesday. But photos and videos shared on social media show that Novocherkassk was destroyed and the wreckage was scattered hundreds of meters around. In the Donetsk region, the Ukrainian army had to retreat to the outskirts of the Mariinka town. The commander-in-chief said, sadly, this is what war is like, as they lose terrain.
Наші війська ще знаходяться у північній його частині. Наші війська підготували оборонний рубіж поза цим населеним пунктом, але я можу сказати, що цього населеного пункту вже не існує.
On Tuesday, the widow of a 31-year-old Ukrainian soldier killed fighting in the city of Mariinka was joined by relatives and friends in the Ukrainian city of Irpin to mourn the death. The ceremony was attended by the mayor, who said the city was hosting 3 to 4 funerals per week. Security measures have been strengthened in crowded areas over the Christmas period in the Vatican, in light of international recent events and the risk of terrorist attacks. Italian authorities warn of a higher risk of jihadi attacks amid the Gaza war and eco-activists seizing the occasion to stage headline-grabbing stunts. Precautionary measures were also taken in Germany and Austria.
Zur Zeit, wie Jesus geboren ist, war es auch nicht sehr friedlich. Also das ist nicht was Neues. Was gut ist, ist, dass unsere Exekutive so wachsam ist, dass man genau hinschaut. Ich fühle mich ganz sicher, aber man muss wirklich wissen.
German police said they were taking precautions over Christmas after receiving intelligence of potential terrorist attacks on New Year's Eve. In Germany, the inhabitants of several regions, especially Thuringen and Lower Saxony, were forced to leave their homes on Christmas Day due to heavy rains that caused water levels to rise and consequent flooding. The governor of Thuringen warned that it could take several days before people can return home.
Werden die Menschen wahrscheinlich 3 Tage sich darauf einrichten müssen, nicht in ihre Häuser zu können. Sie können erst zurückkehren, wenn die Keller ausgepumpt sind, wenn der Strom wieder angestellt wird und auch der Anschluss an die Kläranlagen wieder funktioniert.
In Czechia, some regions continue to be hit by flooding. Some areas are still on high alert and most of the country is expecting water levels to rise. Rainfall, but also melting ice, according to local authorities, are responsible for this phenomenon. In Prague, some ferries are not operating and people are not allowed on the embankments. In the Netherlands, water levels are also particularly high. Authorities and volunteers are monitoring the unusual situation. In some places, water is several meters above normal.
Thousands gather in front of a Belgrade police station in support of those arrested for protesting against what they say was electoral fraud in Serbia's recent parliamentary and local elections. The Serbia Against Violence Party called on citizens to applaud the students and their struggle.
Dragi prijatelji, dragi saborci, molim vas prvo na početku da jednim velikim aplauzom pozdravimo studente i njihovu današnju akciju i njihovu borbu.
Russia, which has close ties with the current Serbian government, has accused the West of interfering in what it has called, quote, planned protests.
Попытки третьих сил, в том числе и из-за рубежа, спровоцировать подобные беспорядки в Белграде. Не сомневаемся, что
Several hundred students and other citizens on Monday blocked traffic at key points in Belgrade as protests continued for an 8th consecutive day. Imprisoned Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny said on Tuesday that he was, quote, doing well after a transfer to a remote prison colony in the Russian Arctic. His fate concerns the West and his family, who believe he was sent there to be further isolated before upcoming presidential elections.
Там нет ни ФСИН-письма, ни зоны телекома, то есть практически невозможно связываться с заключенным напрямую. Но это все указывает на то, что они намеренно отправили его именно в эту колонию, именно для того, чтобы изолировать Алексея как можно больше, чтобы не давать ему никакой возможности общаться с внешним миром.
Karp, a small town of about 5,000 inhabitants, is located in Yamalo-Nenetsia, a remote region in the north of Russia, beyond the Arctic Circle. France have denounced the transfer as a violation of human rights. Navalny, a former lawyer, is serving a 19-year prison sentence for charges of extremism. He was arrested in January 2021 on his return from convalescing in Germany for poisoning, which he blames on the Kremlin. Israel and Hamas on Monday gave cool public receptions to an Egyptian proposal to end their bitter war. The World Health Organization visited the Al-Aqsa hospital in Gaza and said that the hospital is taking in far more patients than its bed capacity and staff can handle, and that many will not survive the wait.
The doctors and nurses here are doing their best. Their best is never going to be enough until there's a ceasefire. There's no way to keep up with the scale of injuries and trauma and suffering that's coming through these doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yesterday evening, relatives of hostages captured by Hamas on the 7th of October demonstrated outside the Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv hours before a meeting between the war cabinet.
רוצים להראות את הנוכחות שלנו, חשוב לנו להישאר במודעות שלהם, אנחנו פה, אנחנו סומכים עליהם ואנחנו מאמינים בהם שהם יצליחו לקבל החלטות אמיצות שיביאו את האהובים שלנו הביתה.
Palestinian Catholics attended Christmas Mass in Gaza City. Pope Francis on Monday deplored the, quote, desperate humanitarian situation of Palestinians in Gaza and called for an immediate ceasefire and the freeing of hostages in his Christmas message.
In New Mexico, the largest migrant caravan since June 2022 set off towards the US border on Christmas Day. Around 6,000 migrants walked through southern Mexico, many in hope of getting a transit visa to at least take a bus enabled to reach the US border, even though Mexican authorities claim they do not give them out. Mexico says it detected 680,000 migrants moving through the country in its first 11 months of 2023.
Police say they have arrested the father of a family suspected of murdering his wife and their 4 children on Christmas Day. Authorities discovered the bodies of the woman and her children aged 9 months, 4, 7 and 10 in their flat in the town of Mo after worried relatives sounded the alarm. The man arrested is a 33-year-old Frenchman who had already stabbed his wife in the shoulder blade in 2019. The case was dismissed on the grounds of mental deficiency.
Passengers on a plane that had been grounded in France for days over concerns of a human trafficking scheme landed in Mumbai, India early Tuesday. The plane flying from Dubai was destined to Nicaragua, carrying several unaccompanied minors on board. Out of the original 303 passengers, 25 of them requested asylum in France. There was an anonymous tip-off that it was carrying potential victims of human trafficking. Lyon's Lumiere Institute welcomed a famous filmmaker, perhaps the greatest living documentary filmmaker of them all. Frederick Wismans, with almost 50 films to his credit, came in person at age 93 to present his new film Menu Plaisir Les Trois Gros. A 4-hour film that takes its audience on a journey of what the day-to-day life is like at the 3 Michelin-star restaurant Les Trois Gros, a world-famous restaurant not far from Lyon, behind which lies a family dynasty of great chefs from father to son.
I think the Trois Gros, César and Michel are artists, and what you see is their art being produced, even though it's ephemeral and it's consumed quickly. But they are artists in every sense of the word that painters or writers are artists.
As in all Frederick Wismans films, there's no commentary, no interviews, no sound, and no additional music. He writes films and edits them himself.
Notre fille Marion, qui elle travaille plutôt dans l'hôtellerie, et Marie-Pierre, bien entendu, mon épouse, qui chapeaute tout ça, voilà.
Tous les aspects de tournage étaient un plaisir pour moi, parce que c'était un travail. Moi, j'ai vu leur travail, et c'est aussi dur de tourner un film comme ça, parce qu'on travaille 12 heures par jour. Et après, quand on revient à la maison, on voit les rushs. Et comme ça, les documentaires sont une forme de sport. On doit être dans un bon état physiquement.
C'est classique, c'est du prestige.
The result is worthy of a 3-star meal. The film received a standing ovation at Venice and will be released in France and Europe on December 20th.